Hey, what's going on today, guys? It's Trey. Welcome back to the channel. As always, welcome back to sunny, beautiful Germany. As you can tell by the title of this video, unfortunately, while we were in Switzerland, I did manage to get a speeding ticket in the most expensive country on the planet. Not fun, not exciting, but I want to explain to you guys exactly what happened, where it happened, how much the ticket costs, and sort of the next steps in terms of what we need to do to pay this ticket. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, so the last week of April, we decided to go on vacation to Switzerland. Beautiful country. We drove around a lot. It's a country that the roads are actually pretty nice, and it's a country that's very scenic as well. So we decided to drive. We stayed around the Interlaken area, and unfortunately, that's actually where the speeding ticket occurred. We were driving right alongside the lake, and honestly, I don't know what happened. I wasn't paying attention. I'm gonna be honest, I have really good vision. I'm always looking ahead to see other drivers, and I'm looking for cameras, namely. Now, coming from the US, cameras aren't a huge issue. I'm just used to looking ahead on highways for state troopers most of the time. But ever since we moved here to Europe, I'm always looking ahead for speed cameras. And I've done such a great job of doing that up until this incident. So it was actually a really freak scenario. My wife was actually handing me something from the back seat. I looked in the rearview mirror and I reached back to grab my phone, and sure enough, right as I turned around, I noticed a bright flash. I wasn't speeding. Well, I got a speeding ticket, so I guess technically I was speeding, but I wasn't driving like a bat out of hell. It was just one slip up on my part. It's really not even a big deal, but it kind of sucks because I heard so much about speeding tickets in Switzerland, and everybody has told me, Trey, whatever you do, the last thing you want to do while living in Europe is getting a speeding ticket in Switzerland because they are very expensive. And plus they kind of take a little bit of time to get to you. As I mentioned, I got that ticket back in April, and it just showed up literally yesterday. So it does take a while to process. And it's obviously not in English either, so that's kind of a tough thing. My wife was the one that got it, but she didn't really know what it was until you look on it and you just start seeing speed limits. Now, after reading through the letter, so it looks like they give you actually somewhat of a break in terms of the speed. So if you're going, a little bit over, they're not gonna give you a ticket for that. It's really not a big deal in their eyes. But it's once you start getting in that range of getting over 10 kilometers per hour, that's where the issues sort of lie. And so how it works in Switzerland, I'm not gonna read through this entire thing with you, but kind of how it works in Switzerland, at least from what I've gauged and at least the research that I've done, is obviously the higher the speed, the more expensive the ticket is. Now in the US, it's not exactly that cut and dry when it comes to speeding. It honestly comes down to officer or state trooper discretion. I have gotten speeding tickets in my lifetime. I'm not the slowest driver out there. I do have somewhat of a lead foot. And honestly, living here in Germany with the Autobahn has really just allowed me the chance to really open her up on the highway, if you know what I mean. And I love it. I want to do a full-fledged video on driving on the Autobahn. I'll probably do that here coming up. But honestly, this was just one incident where I got caught slipping. I wasn't looking ahead like I usually do. I allowed myself to be distracted. So I have nobody else to blame but myself. So I'm sure you guys are probably wondering, most expensive country on earth. Trey, how much was this ticket? So I want to show you guys, I want to be transparent with you. I'm not going to show you too much of the information here, but I will show you. I don't want you guys to think I'm making this up. The ticket was around 57 euros, so really not that expensive. Going back to that California speeding ticket that I got, guess how much that ticket was? That ticket was $350. And you know what? I wasn't able to fight it. Fighting a ticket in California is virtually impossible. You're not gonna win. You're never going to win. Usually what you can do is try to talk yourself out of the points, but you'll have to attend driving school, you'll have to do this, you have to do that. You'll have to jump through hoops to avoid getting points in the US. All right, so now let's talk about next steps. I've been just researching like crazy the last 24 hours just to see like sort of what the protocols are, what you should be doing once you receive a speeding ticket. In the US, it's extremely different, right? So most of the time in the US, what people do is they either just pay it which does take a little bit of time because the courts and the legal system in the US is pretty outdated, unfortunately. So you have to like send in a check, or if you're lucky, you can go down to your local town hall, city hall, police precinct, whatever, and just pay the fine. Here in Europe, it's a little bit different because one, we live in Germany, so I'm not driving all the way to Switzerland to pay a ticket. So they actually give you the option to pay via phone or via a mobile device or paying online, which is pretty convenient. So I'm just gonna pay the ticket. I'm obviously guilty, so there's no fighting it. I don't even think you can fight it. It's literally a camera ticket. Like all the evidence is there against you. So gonna pay the ticket, and I think the longer you wait to pay the ticket, the higher the ticket increases. So, quick fact for you guys. Did you know the highest recorded speeding fine ever issued was to a 37-year-old Swedish man in 2010 in Switzerland? He was fined a total of 1 million Swiss francs for driving at 290 kilometers an hour on a 120 kilometer per hour stretch of motorway. That is absolutely insane, and most expensive country on earth, obviously, so don't expect things to be super cheap in Switzerland. So I want to give you guys an example of a speeding ticket in the US that I did actually get. So when I was living in Southern California at the time, I was driving down to San Diego and I got a speeding ticket by a California Highway Patrol in a city by the name of San Clemente. Now, if you're not too familiar with California, San Clemente is considered South Orange County. So it's like just right below Laguna Niguel, Laguna Beach, Rancho Santa Margarita, Mission Viejo. It's like right around that area. So it's really notorious for being flooded with California Highway Patrol. So I don't know what I was thinking. I was driving really fast. I believe the speed limit there was like 70 miles per hour. I'm not gonna lie, I was doing like 85 to 90. I was not driving slow. So when I got pulled over by the officer, he informed me of my high rate of speed. He clocked me. I was not getting out of that ticket at all. So very different from the European experience. You know, you're not gonna really find too many officers like sitting on the Autobahn, for example, clocking you. They're just not gonna do that, right? So coming from the US, like getting literally clocked by a camera for me, was pretty shocking, right? But I've learned since I've lived here to focus ahead, always be looking for signs. And some countries like Belgium, for example, they actually have signage that show when a speeding camera is approaching. Germany, that's not necessarily the case because most of the Autobahn, there really is no speed limit at all. So you're not gonna really have to deal with that unless you're in like areas like downtown Stuttgart or, you know, München or Berlin, you know, country or cities where obviously it's heavily congested and it's virtually impossible to reach those high speeds in those areas. Another state that I've lived in where it's virtually impossible to get out of a speeding ticket once pulled over by the Highway Patrol is Florida. Now, I'm actually a Florida native, so I've been pulled over by, I know this isn't good to admit, but I have been pulled over by the Florida Highway Patrol numerous times. And in fact, there's a place in South Florida called Mexico, which is very notorious for street racing. I used to be out there all the time, and it even got to the point where Florida Highway Patrol, they know what Mexico is. That's what it's called. And like, you know, they're pretty cool with us doing it because they know that we pride ourselves on being safe. And there's just a respect that we have with law enforcement when it comes to that. But the times when I have been pulled over by Florida Highway Patrol, it wasn't in Mexico. You know, it was on like Alligator Alley, it was on I-95 in Miami, like it was just, you know, I-4 driving from Tampa to Orlando. Like I've been pulled over by Florida Highway Patrol. And unfortunately, when you do get pulled over by Florida Highway Patrol, like the California Highway Patrol, 9.5 times out of 10, you're not getting out of that ticket, ever. Now, the cool thing about living in Florida is you can actually attend court and plead your case with the judge, or you can plead no contest. And most of the time, the judge will actually throw the ticket out, right? So very different from living in California and extremely different from living here in Europe. We're not gonna be able to fight this ticket. Like we're not gonna be able to fight it. You know, it was a mistake that I made. It's definitely something that I've learned from. And you know, I don't have any hard feelings towards Switzerland or anything like that. I still think it's a great country. But yeah, this is a mistake that I made, and yeah, you live, you learn. So the real moral of the story here is to always be focused on the road regardless. And I know you guys know that, especially Europeans. Europeans are actually really great drivers, you know, especially here in Germany. The driving culture is just, it's so good. It's so stressless, getting on the Autobahn every day. It's so nice. And people are just generally smart here when it comes to the road. And I'm sure there's gonna be some Germans here in the comment section that are like, Trey, what on earth are you talking about? Drivers here suck, blah, blah, blah. But from you know, what I've noticed being here, people are actually very knowledgeable when it comes to the rules of the road and lane designations. And yeah, I appreciate driving here. It's very, very nice. So always be looking ahead, always keep your eyes ahead, look out for those speed cameras. If you're in Switzerland, they are everywhere. I'm telling you, we probably passed maybe 30 speed cameras driving from the German border. We literally drove, I think we were like 50 kilometers away from the Italian border. So we drove all over Switzerland for the most part. And there were speed cameras everywhere. So just be careful out there. As always, thank you guys for the continued love and support. I hope you guys enjoyed this video somewhat. Yeah, speeding tickets suck. I would say a lot less stressful here in Europe. One, because they're not as, the penalties aren't as high as they are in the US. But just be careful, because depending upon the rate of speed that you're doing, obviously that's gonna tell you how much the ticket is. So if you're out there doing a $130 and a 70, your ticket's gonna be absurd. Your ticket's gonna be out of this world. So just be careful. And yeah, so thank you guys for the continued love and support, and mahalo for watching.